You're watching Past the Wire TV. Saratoga Saturday on Past the Wire TV. Presented by Amwager. Nobody does it better. You're watching Saratoga Saturday. Exclusive coverage every Saturday of the meet. Only on Past the Wire TV.
Ciao, ciao, everybody.
Hey.
How are you?
What do you say, everybody?
Always a pleasure, and a very nice edition of Saratoga Saturday. Even though it's Wednesday, we tape on Wednesday. But the Whitney, man, 12 horses.
No. What was it? Feels like the last couple of years it's been, 6 or 7 horses, but I guess that's really been the case for most dirt stake races on the Naira circuit for the last couple of years. So we're in for a treat Saturday, I think.
Breeders' Cup aside, you don't see many older horses, grade 1 races with 12. You just don't see a lot of that anymore. So we'll take full advantage of that. We're going to go through the Whitney first. After the Whitney, we're going to cover the Saratoga Derby, the Test, and last but not least, Detroit. Now, for those of you that have been watching for a while, and Big Race Jim, you might remember this. Last year on Whitney Day, I had a huge day with Cogburn at 7-1, White Barrio 10-11-1. Somebody else too. There was 3. We went 3 for 3 with 3 nice prices, I think. Anyway, I know those 2. The other one might have been another day, but
yeah. And White Barrio, John, could have been the overlay of the year because he was primed for a big race and he was just dismissed.
No doubt. Now, okay. I promised last week we'd put another picture up from Saratoga with a little bit of a fun story. Last week we were 1 for 1 as the leading owner, percentage-wise, tied for life. The next picture we'll never be able to verify, but I'm going to say this is a record-breaking picture that a record like Woody Stevens' Belmonts in a row is never going to be broken, ever. Now, want to take a shot at a guess? Gio, Big Race Jim? You'll never get it, but you're free to try. Anybody else in the comments? I did tweet it out once, so somebody might know.
What are we guessing for? Some streak or some
a record that will never be broken.
A record that never be broken. Okay, hold on. I see Anthony Morgado. I'm familiar with him. There's too many variables. I see the 9 in the winner's circle. I don't know.
My theory is now there's a couple of tells. One you could see clearly, one you'd have to look pretty close to see, but it's August, right? Well, the end of August. The guy in the white jacket, which is more like a coat, okay, 2 to the left, all the way on the left. The guy with the white jacket on with the long sleeves. That's my dad. Okay, you don't really wear long sleeves at that time of year, right? And a jacket. This here is my brother John. His wife Denise was his girlfriend back at that time. This is Dominic, and this is May. Now, my theory is that there is more cash money. Now you got to realize this is what 1994. in this win picture than any other win picture in the history of Saratoga. We're at about $1.6 million in cash between everybody in this win picture. My dad had that white jacket on. There was $10,000, there's everywhere. He couldn't even walk. Okay. John, Denise in the back, who you can't really see it, had a Louis Vuitton bag stuffed with it. It was all over, about 1.6 million dollars in cash, all gambling money in that win picture. And I would say that there ain't a picture in the history of Saratoga that's got $1.5 million in it, even today, let alone 1994, because I don't know how to do the math to that, but 1994, what's 1.5, 1.6 million today? 8 million, 7 million, 10 million? I don't even know.
That's pretty quick. Now, John, so it has the numbers, there's nothing have to do with the 7 furlongs being 1 and 124. Is there a correlation to this and what I know you had a monster pick 6 win?
No, that's a different day. That whole pick 6 sequence is actually on YouTube with Harvey Pack. One day I'll bring it up and we'll take some clips out of that. But this picture was just, to me, very special. I don't think Walter. I don't think they'll ever break that picture. The record. I mean, if it is the record, I'm assuming it is. I don't know many win pictures that got that much money in there.
Now, John, can I ask you something? Back in the early 90s,
right?
I have recollections of a Silver Fox watering hole at the train station on one of these Staten Island Rail train station bars.
Right.
That
had nothing to do with this horse. No, okay. This horse was named for Dominic. May he rest in peace. Poor guy died in jail. Not a pleasant story. That's his wife, May. But this horse, Dominic owned this horse with May. We all had a little piece of him because we all had a little piece of everything everybody had back then. But this horse was named for Dominic, and we had horses at the time with Anthony Margada. That's a relationship that ended badly with baseball bats flying. That's a whole nother story at a wedding. But, those were crazy times, crazy days. But Anthony Margada swung a baseball bat at Dominic, who at that time was in his 70s, and wound up getting the shit kicked out of him by my brother, my dad, and another friend of theirs, Richie, at a wedding. I wasn't there, but the whole thing was on video because it was on a wedding. So I got a call. You're not going to believe this. I'm like, what? So they sent me the video, and I got to watch the whole thing. Unfortunately, not live because it would have been fun to be there live and kind of.
Very interesting picture, John. Very interesting.
Yeah. But no hard feelings, Mr. Margada. You know what I mean? That was 100 years ago. So is what it is. But Dominic met a bad end, wound up getting in trouble, went away, and passed in prison, unfortunately. So that happens, federal prison. But that was better times, and like I said, $1.5 million, 1.6 in the winner's circle, all cash money. You don't see that today. First, I think that even with inflation and everything else, the record is pretty safe because now, even if you were up there for the meet and hit for that much money, which if you did, God bless you, but it'd probably be on your phone or your ADW, not cash.
Absolutely.
Back then, we was betting cash. We didn't want nobody seeing our ADW, you know what I mean, tracking our bets or anything. Nobody was playing for points or rebates or any of that bullshit. We were just playing to take down scores. And that was a very, very good meet. And there was a lot of money in that picture, and I wasn't there, but you could rest assured I got my share of it.
And John, there was actually an existence of advanced deposit wagering back then, right?
There was. You bet, maybe. I don't even know. You bet might have been out by then.
Maybe with a specific bookmaker.
Yeah, absolutely.
An individual to a bookie.
Absolutely. But again, I think that's 2 records I'm involved in. Okay. highest winning owner percentage tie, and I think we got the most money in the winner's circle locked up. So
beautiful thing, John.
yeah. Now if we could do it again or come close or get it on okay, Brian Jennings says 1.2 in 94 is a little over 2.5 today. So 1.6, okay, so maybe 3 million double, I still think the record is safe. I would have thought more, but I don't know about that stuff. Economics was not my forte in school. So and that's it. That's the little picture and story for this week. Now we got a race to discuss.
Here's the field. Nice 12 starters in here. I think the big one that sticks out is National Treasure, obviously coming off of the Met Mile win, but 12 in the starting gate.
Let's correct one thing. I see 5.5 furlongs. The audience must know.
Oh no!
The Whitney is
Whitney has
9
been
furlongs.
Sprint this year, and they're going to run it at 5.5 furlongs.
I have a keen eye. I caught that. So it's a 1 1/8 miles, folks. As you know, $1 million Grade 1 Whitney. It is for all the horses, and that's why we're here to talk about it.
I handicapped for 5.5 furlongs.
Yeah.
Who believes that?
What a couple weeks ago, who did I have? I think it was the Belmont.
Thank you, Brian.
Belmont weekend. I had I don't know, some ridiculous long shot listed as like the 6-5 favorite. I do all this stuff by hand, so give me a break.
A minor glitch. I just had to mention it. Minor glitch. But we have the actual past performances in front of us, and we're going to take you down from post 1 all the way to post 12 with some very unique observations.
That is correct. Okay, we're going to do the Whitney. We're going to keep it kind of tight and move fast, but we're going to do all the horses in the Whitney, but don't panic, anybody. We know everybody wants to get out of here, so we're going to do the other races, just who we like, and a thought or two on who we like and why. But the Whitney,
those of you who are viewers, take some notes if you need to as we move along.
Absolutely. Okay, let's start. Gio, you could hit lead off with post time.
Post time. Okay. A nice looking gray.
Oh, wait. I got to interrupt you. I promised one of our viewers and biggest supporters that I would do something. And Gio, this is for you. Good friend of mine, Jimmy, NYPD detective, retired, high-level guy, part of the NYPD FBI Anti-Terrorism Task Force, knows his stuff. He has made a prediction about Gio, watches all our shows, all Gio shows, all everybody. He has made a prediction with confidence that I could put it on the air of who Gio lands on in this race. And he is all in. If he could get a line on Vegas, he would bet all in that Gio has landed on Bright Future. Don't tell us now. We'll get there when we get there. But Jimmy, he just retired a year or two ago, sharp as a razor. That's it. Now, you're on the honor system. We know you'd never change your pick, but
no way. It's all here. It's all on my inked up PPs. So
he says you like Skippy, but you're not landing on him here. He's all in on Bright Future for Gio. So, okay, I'm sorry for the interruption.
All right. So I started with post time. So post time is a good-looking gray. I like the horse overall. He's very consistent and reliable. However, and I do have a tremendous amount of respect for Brittany and Sheldon Russell. Most of you know it's a trainer, jockey, married couple, and they do a lot of quality work over in Maryland. But in this spot, this son of Frosted, even though Frosted was a distance horse, I have some reservations about post time running big in this spot, even though he has a race at Saratoga at this distance. So I couldn't land on post time, and I'm not going to be using post time in my my exotics either.
All right, big race, Jim.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Gio. I don't think this horse wants to go a mile and an eighth. I do think the horse is quality for sure, just not against this group. And I get the husband wife dynamics here, but this. I'll just say it. The horse probably better suited for a different rider at some point. Not for me in here.
All right, I would say this about Post Time. I don't land on him, but he's going to be a big price, but would not be a major shocker in my opinion if he somehow won. I don't like him because it's not that I don't think he fits. It's not that I don't think he doesn't get a setup. It's not that I don't think he's fast enough. I think that he's not really a two-turn horse, and I don't know that he's going to have that same kick going 2 turns. So I guess I side with you guys that mile and an eighth is not his distance. So I'm going to
make one other prediction. Sorry, at the tail end of your comment, John. Post Time is going to be the biggest price he's been throughout his career because he's always had odds on, and he just faced National Treasure, and National Treasure buried him, and he was 5-1. So I think you're going to get a big price on Post Time, something you're not familiar with or don't see often with him.
All right. Next horse, Disarm. Big race, Jim.
Yeah, we liked him in the Stephen Foster, and then it turns out he was wearing a bar shoe. That bar shoe comes off.
It does
for the Whitney. I'm not sure if that is enough in here. I was a little disappointed with his Stephen Foster, I guess, but I guess we could probably pin that perhaps on the bar shoe. He's going to need to show me a little bit more. I do think he will improve off of the Stephen Foster effort. He's probably on my fringe right now for including on multi-race tickets. I haven't nailed all of that down just yet since we are recording this on or doing this live on a Wednesday night. I think he's sitting on a better effort than last time. On the fence still about if he's a top win candidate in my book.
Gio Big Guns.
Okay, Disarm. I've used him many times before in the past, and I know lots about this guy. And I believe he's still got some big races ahead of him. Being the son of Gunrunner, the bar shoe off is important to me. He was very disappointing in the Stephen Foster. I trust Rosario. I actually like Rosario, a strong arm, strong rein jockey on him. I think he's going to make a run, but I think and I feel this pretty strongly. He disappointed me greatly in the last. I think he does move forward with a positive race. He made my handicap, but I did not land on him on top. I'm going to use him in my deeper triples and superfectors. And as I do my precise order, I landed 4th on Disarm.
Okay. I loved Disarm last time, as you may remember. I thought he was sitting on a very big race. The bar shoe really, which I did not know about when we did the show, and that was definitely a ouch, when I found out about it. But I thought the horse was sitting on a big race. Steve Asmussen publicly said that he was extremely disappointed with the race, expected more from the horse, as did we, or at least I, and I think you guys did like him too. I'm going to forgive that race. I'm going to say that the bar shoe was a legit excuse. It was the first time I recall him running with one. Obviously, there was a foot issue or something like that. But I think he's got a win in him, and I think he's got a big race in him. And I'm going to say he's a use for me, a must use. So any pick 5s, pick 4s, or pick 6s, I bet Disarm is going to be on every one of those tickets.
Interesting.
One more chance. National Treasure, the favorite, shipping in who's already shipped in and won over the racetrack, National Treasure. Gio.
All right, I'll lead off with National Treasure. A flair of the dramatic. He's improved substantially, and he had a nice 3-year-old campaign, but he's improved substantially as a 4-year-old. Training well. I trust Pratt. I think he's been a different horse with Flavian on him. I know Bob, when I went and looked at the workouts for this race, because he hasn't been out since June 8th, I knew what I was going to see. Typical Bob Baffert, West Coast workouts, run and gun, go fast. I like the handling nature of the workouts. They weren't breezes. I think the horse is fit, and the horse is going to be a handful. Made my handicap, had to, because his figures alone put him right there in the mix. Training substantially, multiple grade 1 winner. That's very important to take note in this race, because you can't win the Whitney unless you've proven yourself in wars in grade 1 races or grade 2s, strong grade 2s. A big threat, should have the lead at the 8th pole, but made my handicap. I'm going to use National Treasure in my multiples, but it's my 3rd choice on my precise order.
Okay. Big race, Jim. Thoughts?
Yeah, likeliest winner in the race. I don't think you can't get too cute, right? With this horse, he's the best horse in the field. I think just missing by a nose to Cody's Wish in the Breeders' Cup, like that race was so good from him, and he's just been, aside from the Saudi Cup race that he lost, only by a length and a half. He's just been a different horse since the end of last year, and I think that Breeders' Cup was a really big turning point for him. To just miss at a mile and then win the Pegasus at a mile and an eighth, and then to pretty much bury the entire Met Mile field a month or two ago, and then ship back in for this. I'm not, for purposes of the show tonight, he's not going to be my top pick, but he's definitely going to be an absolute 100% must use on any multi-race ticket for me.
Yeah, it's tough to argue with that. He's not my top choice. I don't really land on him, but I wouldn't argue that he's a must use, and I wouldn't argue against anything that you said. And Jim, I don't know if you remember, but when he was a 2-year-old and we were at the Breeders' Cup at Keeneland, you, me, and Michael Wilson, I believe, the 3 of us were in agreement that he was by far the best looking 2-year-old dirt horse out there at the Breeders' Cup that year. I mean, he really outlooked them all. I remember us commenting and discussing that, he really looked like he was going to be a Derby type prospect, and just had, he checked every box as far as a racehorse. And he never really developed early. He always looked like he had that potential. He come off, the Santa Anita Derby to kind of win the Preakness wire to wire in what I thought was a very gutty race. And then, like you said, since that race to Cody's Wish, the light bulb went off, and he's really, really come around. He proved in the Pegasus at Gulfstream that he doesn't need the lead, so he can go or he can sit a little bit. And I think like you said, he's I don't think he's a cinch, but he's a must use. Moving right along, Warrior Journey. The best thing I could say, I'll start with him. He looks a little cheap and a little slow, but he does have one thing that jumps out. And at Saratoga, you got to pay attention to this. I don't care if it's 4-5 or 45-1. He's 2 for 3 over the racetrack. I never get shocked when a horse that's been a multiple winner at Saratoga jumps up and wins at any class level on the rise at all. Am I using him? No. Do I think he can win? No. But if I could find any way to get to him, any way, shape, or form, I would. I just can't. But I won't be shocked if he wins because I've seen this happen at Saratoga before. Jim?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, to one of the viewers' earlier points that the Churchill Downs shippers have been running well at Saratoga so far this summer. And, Warrior Johnny checks that box from his start on opening day, which just looking at the Brisnet was a career best effort from him, a 111 speed figure, 120 late pace figure, which, really jumps off the page. Is obviously against lesser competition. I've seen some buzz about this horse on Twitter, but I'm not really buying it. So I'm not going to be including him.
He's got a good name.
Yeah, well,
yeah, it's a cool name.
All right, so I'm going to add to that a bit. I believe I watched his last 4 races, and I went back to watch one of his races from 23. He is a 5-year-old, and so many horses are younger, and he's one of the older ones. However, when you look back at the Jockey Club Gold Cup, Bright Future just leveled him that race. I don't see him turning the tables on a horse like that. It's a 5-year-old gelding. They're running him aggressively. His last was a visually impressive race. However, much, much cheaper in class. I do like the angle that John talked about, a horse for the course, and he's coming off his best. I think he regresses from that, and there's just too much of an ask jumping into this Whitney Grade 1, even with Gaffleon for Philip Bauer, who I have a lot of respect for him. He knows how to condition a horse. It's just too much of an ask. I can't. The jump is too high. Even if he runs his best, it's not good enough here. He won't be on my tickets.
Okay. Moving right along. Horse that I guess is going to warrant some serious consideration. First Mission.
Lead off?
Go ahead, Gio.
I'm going to lead off with First Mission. I'm very familiar with the guy. Ever since he was a juvenile. He ran in 23. He skipped his juvenile campaign, and he was a hot horse on the Derby Trail early on, and he couldn't make it to the gate. And then I followed him very closely. So Brad Cox is a trainer I will always trust. He is the son of Street Sense. I think he gets an excellent trip in this race. So I have him labeled as a contender in my handicap. I'm going to have to make a decision whether I use him in multiples. He's underneath in my handicap. I had him very close to disarmed overall, which would make him 4th or 5th. So I'm going to use him in my superfectas. He's a nice horse when he's really right. He was grossly disappointing in the Stephen Foster. However, I think he bounces back and he runs a more competitive race. Just my top 3 are more compelling. God bless you, John.
Thank you. My allergies are killing me today. There's like a pollen pack here.
Yeah, my top 3 were more compelling and more appealing to me, but I would not be surprised if First Mission ran a big race and made his presence felt strong in a stretch. I just couldn't side with him as much as I did with my top 3.
Okay. Big race, Jim.
Yeah, I just can't trust him off that last effort in the Stephen Foster. If anybody goes back and watch that show, I think we were all sort of in agreement that it was kind of put up or shut up time for First Mission, and he just didn't deliver. So I can't trust him off that effort. Maybe if it rains a bunch and the track is super wet, maybe I'll look a little bit closer at him. But beyond that, if he wins, I lose.
We're all in agreement on First Mission too. So I'm going to take a stand against him. I hope he takes his share of the money. I'm not using him basically for the same reasons that you all outlined. Walter, who's pretty sharp, is very sharp, is forgiving his last. I'm not. Uh, I just don't get to him, and I'm not even sure that his best race is good enough to win here, because I'm starting to look back at when he's run his best races and who he's beaten, and I just think this is a tall order for him, and I hope he takes a lot of money, because I'm not going to use him. Okay. I'll take Il Miracolo, because I'll be brief with him. I think he's a cut below. He does show up with a big effort every now and then. But no, I disagree with that. We'll get to that statement. Just because you forgive one doesn't mean you got to forgive the other. Different reasons. One had a bar shoe, the other one had no excuse. So, but back to Il Miracolo, I just think he's a couple loadies, and he's never, even with all those starts, he got 20-something starts? Even with all those starts, he's never run a race good enough to win here, in my opinion. So he's a pass for me. Jim?
Yeah, I met his owner actually in the elevator at Gulfstream Park the day before or the morning of the Pegasus, which was kind of cool. Very, very, very nice guy. Didn't like that horse that day. Haven't really ever liked this horse, and won't be liking him or using him on Saturday.
Big Guns, Gio.
Okay, every year when I cap this Whitney, I have certain criteria that has to be met, and I don't land on him. I'm not going to use him, but it's worth mentioning for someone that was going to consider him as someone who could, make the distance. Absolutely, gun runner, a son of gun runner. I love all gun runners, and I watched all 7 of his races. At the distance, you'll see on the board he's got the 4 in the money, and he wasn't good enough to win. And that's what I concluded. He faced National Treasure in First Mission and some of the others in this race, and he wasn't good enough. And that's what's going to happen here. He's a nice colt that's going to win or compete in races going 9 furlongs, but it's too much of an ask in this race. Even with the switch to Manny Franco, who I really like as a rider change at Saratoga, because he really knows the oval, and he seems to step up his game there. But right jockey, wrong horse, wrong spot. I can't use him.
Okay. Croupy. Big Race Jim.
Yeah, this seems another one just a cut below. Just kind of going through the figures. I mean, he's super consistent. Runs a bunch of 99 and 100 speed figures on the Brisnet. Consistent late runner. I just think others are better here, and I'm not going to be using him.
Big Guns.
Okay, Croupy. As Jim just mentioned, nice colt, consistent, reliable. I value and I trust anybody coming out of the Pletcher stable. You do got Irad. Irad made me dig a little deeper. The Race First Nest, who on everybody's chart is the #1 dirt marathoner in the country. He got beat soundly by him, but he kept his to the task at hand. He ran well. Now Pletcher's cutting him back. I did a little research. When Pletcher makes a move like this, cutting back, horse in good form, top jockey, son of Curlin, proven at the distance, I couldn't dismiss entirely. Now, when I say that, when Gio said he makes his precise handicap, there's a field of 12, I had him as my 6th choice. And what that means to some of the viewers, if you want to know, if I was going to do a lengthy super key, I would use this horse in my super key, but he's not going to make my multi-race wagering, and he's on the bottom end of my super or deeper gimmicks.
Okay. Um, you know, I think the biggest knock on Krupe for me is that he really needs a lot of pace in front of him. But I don't discount them like you guys do. I think he's got a legitimate chance to win. And I'm not as high on Nest as a lot of other people. Nest is just found a friendly spot to run in those marathons, and he's better than most of those horses. But I think Krupe's dangerous. He's won at Saratoga. I like that, and he's got a couple of races that you look at where he was closing into some of these horses, including National Treasure. Late up against it. I thought he had a pretty good race in the Pegasus, and if things had turned out different, or things had gone different, he could have run a little bit better. He came back from Dubai and seems to have stepped up his game. He ran that big race first time out where he got left in the gate and came flying, and then he didn't break his maiden right after that. It took a while, so he's kind of, in my opinion, just kind of figuring it out. And I think he's dangerous at a big price, especially if Irad is in that groove that he sometimes gets in on those big race days where he's winning like 4 or 5 races and he's just on fire. Because he does that sometimes. And if he's in that groove on Saturday, which is likely, and we'll certainly know that by the 11th race, I would even upgrade him a little bit, but I'm going to use him at a price. I'm not singling anybody in a Whitney, just so you understand. I'm going to bet a pick 5 on Whitney Day, and Krupe is definitely one of the ones, along with Disarm, that's going to be on my ticket.
Yeah,
I apologize, everybody, but my allergies are killing me, so just bear with me.
that's a good point on the IRAD on big days. It does seem, you get to like race 8 and he's won like 5 of them already.
He gets that game face on, and he just really heats up. He brings it to another level.
And John, one thing I wanted to add before we go on to the next horse, who I'll begin with. One thing about Krupe, as you know, I make my own morning lines, and I was very surprised. I think it's David A. who makes these ones, that he put Krupe at 15-1. There's no way Krupe in this field with Pletcher cutting back with Irad. I put a morning line at 7-1, and I think I'm going to be spot on as to where Krupe is going to be.
Okay.
All right.
You wanted to go with Tumbarumba,
yeah.
So go ahead.
I'll start with him. This is a horse that, for one of the guys that's coming into the race that's really not recognized with some of the big guys, I was impressed with him. He's a 4-year-old gelding, and when Gio said he lists fighter, hard hitter on his handicap, you got to take notice. This guy in race review, 10 races, 6 photos, and when you watch the way he's just determined, whether he won or lost the photos, that determination inside the 16th pole, I like to see that. And you got Luis Saez up again. I have to make a game time decision, but when you're talking about an up-and-coming, I didn't land on him. He's not in my top 3. But I have to make a decision because I'm not going to let Luis beat me on a fighter with tenacity, a hard hitter, at 25-30-1. So I'll make a decision that day. I'm definitely using the 8 in my triple and superfectas, in my keys. But he grudgingly made my top 6/7 in a field of 12. He could better my rating. And I'm going to make a decision on race day whether I use him in my multiples. But he's definitely, like I said, using him and Louise, the number 8, in my triples and my super keys, but didn't make my top 4.
All right, I'll go second with him. I agree with a lot of what you said. I think he's dead game. I think he's a fighter. I've watched a lot of his races several times. I've bet on him. I've cashed on him. I've lost on him. I'm very familiar with him. I think he falls into the same category for me as post time. I just don't think he's as effective at 1 1/8 around 2 turns as he is around 1 turn at 7 furlongs or a mile. I respect Brian Lynch. He's a very, very good trainer. May even be a little bit underrated by a lot of people, not by me. Love Saez on this kind of horse, but if you look at his mile and an eighth races, just not quite as good as his one-turn races, in my opinion. And the race at Gulfstream, the Ghost Zappa at a mile and an eighth, he couldn't beat Il Miracolo, even though he was tough and they dogged him the whole way, and he hung tough. And I don't like Il Miracolo, so I respect him. If they were running the race at 7/8 or a mile, I'd say he's right in the fight. But at a mile and an eighth, I don't think he's as effective. Big race, Jim.
What about at the 5.5 furlongs that was on the graphic?
5.5 furlongs, I'd use it.
I'm with you, John. I just think that the 2 turns is his undoing. Though, to be fair to him, he's 12 of 15 career in the money. 15 career races, he's in the money 12 times, which. He's going to be around it. I don't think he's a win contender. Saez is having a not so great summer so far, so that's a downgrade in my book. Though Lynch is a top class trainer. Though one interesting note, and I'm not using this horse, but on the class ratings in Brisnet, Tumbarumba is second highest current class rating behind National Treasure. So, looking at it on paper, my initial thought was, who is this horse really beat? But according to the Brisnet, he's as classy as they come in this field, though I'm not going to be including him on my tickets.
Okay. Bright Future. Big Guns, Gio. We'll let you lead off with Bright Future.
Okay, well, it's a good lead because this is the guy who I landed on as my top choice.
Whoa, we gotta hold up.
Oh, okay.
Jimmy the cop, Jimmy DT was all in, had no idea. It was said that he would bet everything if he could get a line on Vegas that you land on Bright Future. Jimmy, huge shout out. I love you. You called it this afternoon with confidence. He didn't just call it. He called it with confidence.
Interesting. I like that. But you know what?
Let me.
By the way, we're getting to my top 2. It's the 9 and the 10. But my grading system and my overall handicap, I'm going to tell you why I landed on Bright Future. And I just gave away who I like second because when I first started my handicap, I said, okay, I know who National Treasure is. And I had to find and dig down deep who are the 3 horses who I felt had the best opportunity to defeat National Treasure in this particular field. And my top choice ended up being Bright Future. Here's why. Many people don't realize that he's a relatively lightly raced 5-year-old. I love that he's the son of Curlin. Actually, Curlin and Gunrunner in races like this is which intrigued me the most, those 2 sires. You got Castellano back up. I love what he did at Monmouth. I was extremely impressed with that race. I singled him in the pick 5 that day. He looked like he was defeated. And he was just resilient. He said to the others, it's a grade 3. I'm better than you. And he just closed willingly where many felt he was defeated. That was just a tune-up, okay? His grade 1s, in my opinion, the Jockey Club Colt Cup over this race course was a big race. He was winning back-to-back. He just got up. I think he's sitting on a perfectly formatted race for the Pletcher stable. I trust Castellano. I think he sits a very advantageous trip. And he gets up and he wins the race. He's my top choice. But he made it by about that much over my second choice, which I'm going to talk about, who I will use. But that's where I land Bright Future, my top choice.
All right. Jimmy the Cop. Jimmy the DT. We're bantering back and forth about this. Call you later. No, don't call me later. I'm doing a show tonight. Then I got to take care of the dogs, blah, blah, blah. Then he goes, I'm not watching the show because I already know who Gio's going to pick. I said, how could you possibly know who Gio was going to pick? Bright Future, 1,000%. Did you see that? Not 100%, 1,000%. How do you know that? He goes, are you serious? I've been watching your shows for 5 years. I know who he's going to pick. Guarantee it. He will pick Bright Future. I'd bet anything on it at Vegas if I could get a line.
That's crazy.
What he said. No, hold on. He said, then he will also say National Treasure is very, very tough, blah, 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 blah. He won't pick Skippy, but he'll tell us how much he likes and respects Skippy, and he'll mention him, but he'll say this is not the right spot for Skippy.
Wow. Okay.
I said, okay, I'm gonna announce this at the beginning of the show. He says, go ahead. There's no shot I'm wrong. I guarantee it. Anything that I could get.
That is crazy. And it
right here.
My viewers know how much my viewers also know how much I've been on DeSong. DeSong was my 3-year-old Derby horse.
Yeah, I'm telling you what he said.
That's
Bright Future.
cool.
He was all in that you were going to pick Bright Future. And I'm sure he is watching.
Yeah.
He won't comment because.
Now I'm looking forward to hear what you guys have to say about Bright Future. Before we get into my Skippy.
Okay. Bright Future. He's another horse. If you watch that video when I was on that extremely hot streak that I had when he won the Jockey Club Gold Cup and ran down Proxy. 2 for 2 at the Spa. You know I like that. He looked like a beaten horse last time at Monmouth going a mile, which is a little short for him. I'm like, wow, Bright Future not even going to be on a board. And he decided about the 3/16 pole, you know what? I am going to be on the board. Not only that, I'm going to win. And he looked beat. He looked like if you could have bet that race at the top of the stretch, you wouldn't have took 1,000 to 1 on Bright Future. But he got it done. He's another one that's going to be on my pick 5 ticket. So far the guarantees on my pick 5 ticket are Disarm, Crouppy, Bright Future. There's one other guarantee that we will get to. Big Race Jim, what do you think of him?
Yeah, definitely a top win contender. The one I like most of the Pletcher trainees in here. Nothing more to say about him that you guys didn't already cover, but yeah, definitely a strong win factor for me.
Okay, before we move on, this show is very, very interactive with our guests. Okay, and I appreciate all of you, good, bad, and ugly. Okay, I got to call out this guy David, who's going to single Pratt and Baffert. This guy commented on one of my sure bet horses that lost that I picked the loser again, and I've never picked a winner on the sure bet coffee bets. I think that's not accurate. I think it's an unfair statement, but that's opinion. Well, fact is I have picked winners, but that's opinion. But what I didn't like, and I told him so, is he did it with the laughing emoji. And as a gambler, one thing I learned when I was about 15 or 16, you never laugh at a guy that lost a bet. It's like just in bad taste. So, David, I appreciate you watching the show, but that kind of shit doesn't fly with me. And I've never walked away from any confrontation in my entire life, no matter who it was with. So I got to call you out for that. Didn't appreciate that. And then I put up the video for you to watch where I picked like, I don't even know how many winners. So that was just an inaccurate thing. But I don't mind. But to laugh, that doesn't matter. It's not important.
David is his name.
David, yes.
I had somebody do that on my SETI Better Days for me on another race. I said to her, I think it was some kid. Not only did he have like 12 followers, but my point I'm making, he came out of nowhere and he made this unnecessary comment. And I kept it simple on him. I said, look, you don't poke the bear, and you need to do your homework in terms of body of work. You have to show some respect. So
I agree.
This guy who did that to you, not right. Not right.
Yeah, I don't like that. And I don't mind saying, oh, you never picked the winner. Okay, well, obviously you haven't watched many of the Sure Bet Coffee plays because we've picked many a winner. But that's beside the point. You don't laugh. The laughing emoji is what got me. You know what I mean? So it said, oh, you stink. I don't care if you tell me I stink. Right. I thank you, Walter. But I don't mind if you say I stink. I'm the worst. You're better than me. Whatever you say, but to laugh after somebody loses, don't like that.
That's not right. It's anti-Italian too. You got to have respect. You got to understand the circumstance. And somebody, especially with you, John, a legend, a student of the game, it's unacceptable.
Right. I agree.
So for the audience, bring it on. We like comments. We like your
I don't even mind negative comments. What really just got me about that is I said, when you laugh at somebody lose a bet, it's just bad taste. But let's move on.
Future? Oh yeah, let's go to Skippy.
Okay. Who's leading off with Skippy?
I'll lead off with Skippy again.
All right. If you say what Jimmy the Cop said you're going to say, forget about it.
No, I'll give you something new.
If you do that, then I'm not even picking. I'm just going to call Jimmy and say, who do you like? And I'll bet who you like.
Skippy Longstocking. All right. I have great knowledge of the horse. I've been on him since he was a 3-year-old. I had him in the Belmont Stakes underneath Nest and Mo Donegal. I have so many of his races typecasted in my mind, but I still go back and I review certain things. He became my second choice under Bright Future. I almost landed on Skippy again. All right. Skippy Longstocking is a master at the distance. I remember one of the shows I said that he reminded me of Art Collector, who was very proficient at 9 furlongs, 1 1/8. Skippy Longstocking deserves respect because he's going to be forwardly placed in the race. He's tactical. I love the way Jose Ortiz fits on him. I trust Safi Joseph. It's the son of Exaggerator. His big races put him right there in the mix, a strong contender, his very best. So, in my opinion, because he's so efficient at 9 furlongs, he's won 2 grade 2s, he's won 2 grade 3s. He just hasn't gotten to that magic G-spot, the grade 1. And he disappointed me last time in the Stephen Foster. So I think he's going to come up short right under Bright Future. Skippy Longstocking, must use in your multiples. For me, right underneath Bright Future in my exactor and my triples. And by the way, if the exactor is 9-10 and the triple 9-10-3, trust me, Gio said he's going to have an extremely profitable day.
Okay, John Joseph. And John, I am going to reach out. We are going to get that done. I just been really busy, but definitely shout out to Katie.
No winner today.
Yeah, she's riding pretty good, man. No, can't knock her, man. She's riding good. Okay.
I want to hear what you guys have to say about Skippy.
Big Race Jim.
Yeah, this is where I landed as my top choice. I thought his Stephen Foster was pretty good off of not a terribly long layoff, but I thought his race was pretty good coming out of there. He's super consistent. One of the best late runners in this field based on the stats that I go off of. And to your point, Gio, the fact that he's going to be forwardly placed. And, I think as Naira will try to do, again, depending on the weather, I think the track will be, be playing mostly fair, but, I think we'll see if it's dry. And we're supposed to get 2 pretty dry days here, Thursday, Friday. So it's just a matter of what time that rain comes in on Saturday, if it does. But I think the track's going to be dry and it's going to be playing fast. And I think that's going to favor the runners up front. And he's got some pretty good staying power. And I like him coming out of that last race. So he's going to be my top pick. And, if we get anywhere around 8-1, that'll be a pretty nice chunk of change.
Okay. I'm going to take a stand against Skippy Longstocking. He's not going to make his way onto my pick 5 ticket. I think he's going to be part of the pace and probably sit a decent trip, but I just don't think he's quite good enough to beat a couple of the horses in here. And I don't know. I love Jose on a speed horse. I really do, but I can't quite get to Skippy in this spot. All right, I'll start with Arthur's Ride. I like him. I'm going to definitely use him. I think he's going to run a big race. I'm looking for an up and comer in here. I realize he's coming off a big race, but I think he's just getting good at the right time. Obviously, that race in the slop is a big concern if it gets sloppy. But that's Churchill Downs slop, and I'm actually not going to not use him. If it's a sloppy track, I'll just say, hopefully he didn't like the Churchill Downs slop, and all slop and all mud is not created equal. But I think Arthur's Ride is getting good at the right time. I think he's fast. I think I'm hoping he goes and everybody lets him go and nobody goes with him, because I think if he goes with Junior from the outside and clears, then he may get brave. And a lot of times in these races where it looks like there's pace, you look at National Treasure, Pratt likes to be a little bit patient and sit off somebody, and we know that horse can run that way now. Giroux, same thing with First Mission. Tambaramba, same thing with Luis. Luis likes to go, but I think that horse is more of a sitter. Skippy Longstocking on the outside there, I think he'll sit. So I think Arthur's Ride is going to go and be the speed of the speed, as they like to say. And I think he's dangerous, and he's going to be the 4th horse that's on my pick 5. So my pick 5 is going to include Disarm at hopefully a nice price, Croupy at hopefully a nice price, Bright Future at hopefully a decent price, and Arthur's Ride at hopefully a more than fair price of 6, 7, 8 to 1, something like that. That's it for me. Big Race Jim.
Yeah, I have him highlighted on my sheet. Just looking at his last race, kind of going back for the last 2 overall through the field. That last one is one of the best amongst this group. 1 win and 2 seconds from 3 starts at Saratoga, so he obviously likes it there. That tandem of Junior Alvarado and Bill Mott has been around for years, and it seems like they always win big races together. So that's a positive. And back to my point on Skippy too. This horse figures, to your point too, John, is going to be forwardly placed, probably be on the lead, and that last race is just like, granted it was an optional claimer, but it's almost too good to ignore, regardless of who the competition was. I mean, he ran a 1.25 miles in a little over 2 minutes. So, of course, every race is a different pace setup and whatever else. But, I think that's too impressive to ignore. So I'm going to give him a really long look. Still undecided as to how many horses I'm going to include on my pick 5 ticket, maybe 4, maybe 5, depending on how things shake out. But he's definitely on that list and will likely land on a ticket for sure.
Okay.
All right.
Big guns.
I'm going to give you info, and John, I'm going to challenge you a bit on this. I love you. It's a handicapping thought challenge, because we talk so much, and obviously I have great respect for all of your knowledge, but I was curious, and I have to ask you this question during this show. So the way I see Arthur's Ride, now I do big-time studying in race replay. I like the way he came back from that 13-month layoff. I was visually impressed, granted, versus inferior competition. Then I did put a line through the race in a slot. However, here's where I'm going to challenge you off his last. We both love Bill Mott. And yeah, the relationship that Alvarado has with him, I think he's going to get the best ride possible for this particular horse. But here's where I'm going to challenge you. All the talk about the way Fierceness won the Florida Derby and ran that big number. When I watch Arthur's ride, his acceleration from quarter pole to eighth pole was so extreme. He ran his eyeballs out. So my question to you here, he runs a 111 buyer against inferior competition. Now he's going against a deep field of seasoned grade 1 winners, grade 2 winners, consistent horses at 1.1 miles. I know he's the son of Tappet. I have a reservation about him bouncing off that last effort. And I want to know why your opinion of this guy is different from what you saw in Fierceness running that monstrous, which is a grade 1, by the way, Florida Derby, and you feeling like that he ran his eyeballs out. He's going to have nothing left for the Kentucky Derby, which you were right. I was wrong. I still believed in Fierceness, and Fierceness eventually, we saw what he did last week in the Jim Dandy, but I ruled Arthur's ride off of my chart. Even though he's a nice colt, it's too much of a step up, and I think he regresses from his last race.
Okay, that's your opinion of him, but you said you had a question for me. You were going to challenge me. So what's my question?
All right, my question here is, why is John Stetton not as consistent with that angle? He's facing warriors in this race, grade 2, grade 1 warriors at the distance. Now he's what is he cutting back to this, never winning at the distance, and he ran such a fat number. You see him going forward, where I would normally say that John says he regresses from that.
Okay.
And I never challenged you once ever on one of our shows.
I welcome it. So let me answer.
Yeah.
2 different horses, 2 different trainers with 2 different styles of training. Okay. So that plays into whether I think a horse is going to bounce or regress or not. Okay. Fierceness, I saw as a horse who was good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. And then, never had won a fight, and just, I wasn't as enamored or impressed with him as you were. And you turned out right. He won the Jim Dandy and fought and really, proved me wrong. But here's the thing. To me, okay, Fierceness had run that very big race in the past and regressed off it. Arthur's ride has never really done that before. Okay, so he's coming off his first, what I would call, monster race. Even the race at Gulfstream off the layoff wasn't quite like that. It was good, but I just think this horse is a horse that at 4, a Tappet that is just coming into his own and getting better. And this is what he can probably do or close to it consistently. Whereas Fierceness, I just didn't have that same level of confidence. And Mott, to me, is a different kind of trainer than Todd Pletcher. Mott is the kind of trainer that points for races and brings horses along, where Todd Pletcher is the kind of trainer that I think is all in every race, tries to get the most out of every horse in every start. That's tough to do. And Pletcher's as good at doing it as anybody. But Mott is not that kind of trainer. He brings his horses along. He points for races. He uses races as prep races. And I just think this horse has just gotten good. Now, good enough to win against this kind? I don't know that for sure, and I wouldn't tell you that for sure. And it's why I'm using, 4, maybe even 5 horses in the race. And I can get away with that in this race because of the horses I'm using in the pick 5 beforehand. All right. I'm using horses in the pick 5, very short, no spreads, a couple of singles, a couple of 2s, and some of them are very nice prices. So that's going to allow me to be able to go deep in this particular race. So That's my answer. I just see him as a different kind of horse with a different kind of
Fair point. Fair
pattern
point.
and
And
different connections.
I appreciate the clarification. It makes sense what you're saying. It does. One other point I wanted to make about, since we were on him, again, I make my own morning lines. I had this guy at 15-1, and when I saw 8-1, I said, I mean, come on, this is a monster step up. This is the Whitney. And there's some crazy, consistent grade 1 and grade 2 horses in this race.
They all had to try it sometime.
And if David did these morning, look, I like David a lot. I think he's a very knowledgeable guy. I'm not saying I'm a better morning line maker. I just say I make my own morning lines, and that's how I handicap. And wow, if I'm going to take off this ride to beat this field, even though he wowed me with that last race in the optional claimer, I need 15, 17, 20-1. And if you're going to get 6-1 on him, that's an underlay, in my opinion.
I think he's going to be an underlay. I think he's going to be a hot horse on the board. And just before we move on, David, I saw your message. I responded to it. I appreciate it. That guy, David, apologized. That's a gentleman. I appreciate that. Accepted. All good.
Good to hear that. Good to hear that.
You know, we all say things we don't think out on social media and on these platforms sometimes. So no, all good, man. Appreciate you doing that. Charge It. Let me start Charge It with this. Does anybody out there think that Charge It is someday going to jump up and live up to all the potential that he's flashed with those big wins against Lesser and getting soft trips and whatever you want to say? I don't. I've kind of drawn my line through Charge It and said, you know what? He just ain't all that. So he's going to be a pass for me, especially from the 12 hole. He's out, but I'm just curious what you guys and everybody else thinks.
All right. You want to go, Jim?
Yeah, I'm with you. Total toss for me. I'm curious to hear what Gio put him on Gio's morning line, because this horse just takes money, and people are just lighting money on fire with this horse. Okay. So I was a little disappointed to see that he was 30-1 on the morning line. Kind of, fingers crossed that he'd be a little bit of a shorter price, figuring people would pump money into him like they have in every start of his career, only to be left mostly empty-handed. So, Gio, what did you put him at?
Yeah, I mean, David's off on this too. If it's David A. that morning line's ridiculous. I felt that he was a 15-1 morning line. Got it right here. And the reason for that, you got to look at the entire body of work and all the connections and the fact that he is a new 5-year-old. Now, yes, tremendously disappointing, but I love Johnny V. I think this horse has an ingredient of talent that when I see visually in his best races, we all know about the 111 Dwyer with Sayaz up. He just looked brilliant that day. But then a few went wrong. But then his other race, the Suburban, which was nothing to write home about. It was a 5-horse field. He looked dynamic in winning that 5-horse field. So there is an ingredient where Charge It on his best day could contend in this field. Do I see him shocking and winning? No. But Charge It was the real bottom end. Remember, 12-horse field. I eliminated 5 from consideration in any regard. Charge It made my grid. If I choose to go with a bright future, $1 superfecta key, because I don't know what's going to happen underneath, I'm going to use him in that superfecta key. Not like I'm going to use Skippy underneath, because Skippy is a contender to win the race, and he's going to be used as my main exacta and my main triple, along with National Treasure. But I couldn't dismiss Charge It entirely because I still think he has the flair for the dramatic. And if he does it, I need to get paid underneath.
Okay. Big race, Jim. You're with me. I'm a pass on him. Now, just talking ticket structure on Whitney Day, I'm going to bet a pick 5 that starts in the 7th race and closes with the Whitney. So for me, I don't have to, the way I'm going to play it, lock into one horse for the Whitney. It's a 12-horse field. I don't love anybody. If you put a gun to my head, I would probably take Disarm, but you'd have to put a gun to my head and say, you got to take just one horse, gun to your head. I'd probably take Disarm, but we'd have to put a gun to my head to find that out for sure. But the way I'm going to play it is I'm not very deep in some of those other races that we're going to talk about, which we'll get to in a minute. We're going to be quick on those. So for me, I could use 4 or 5 horses in the Whitney. I'm definitely going to use Disarm. I'm going to probably use National Treasure. I'm going to use Croupy. I'm going to use Bright Future, and I'm going to use Arthur's Ride. So in the sequence, that happens to be a 5-deep race for me, which is fine because, like I said, I'm not deep in some of the other races, so I can afford to do that. And in some of the other races, I'm using price horses, so it gives me that room in that race. It just happens to be the Whitney, one of the races that I have room to kind of spread out like that. So let's get to race 7. We'll be quick. Just who we like, and we'll roll. Gio, who you like in the 7th at the Saratoga Derby?
All right, the $600,000. I'm not on a screen.
You don't need to be. Just tell us.
Okay.
None of us are on the screen.
Okay.
What you see is what everybody sees.
I thought the viewers would want to see my reaction here. But anyway, $600,000 Saratoga Derby. I like the race. I land on the 3, Legend of Time, William Buick for Charlie Appleby, Godolphin Blue. For many reasons, I just think the horse is primed for a big effort, loves the weeds. And I just want to give for the audience, I want to give my precise order handicap. I do land on Legend of Time. I'm doing a sizable exacta with the 4, Diego Velasquez, Ryan Moore for Aiden O'Brien. And my full cap is 34825 down the road.
Okay. Now, you guys know I love the Euros. And those of you that follow the channel know how much I loved Notable Speech when he won the 2,000 guineas. Well, guess what? He bounced back from Royal Ascot and won the Sussex Stakes today, a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Mile. So Notable Speech, who I was touting when he broke his maiden as he's a 3-year-old, I thought he might even run in the Kentucky Derby here, is now in the Breeders' Cup Mile. Yes, I bet him today. The horse that ran second, Milboom or something like that, is a horse I gave out as a play on Royal Ascot Day. He ran third, and he ran second, beat Henry Longfellow. So I hit that exacta cold and the win bet. I love the Euros. You guys know that. I watch them all year long. I'm not using either one of those 2 horses that Gio mentioned in this race. I'm using 2 horses, Royal Majesty and White Palomino, to start my pick 5. If one of them don't win, I lose. If you watch the race 2 back that Royal Majesty ran, had a terrible trip, was boxed in, never got room, never got out, could have won that day, didn't. Next time out, I thought he'd run better. He didn't, but I'm forgiving that, and I give him another shot. White Palomino's getting better and better. Can go to the lead, can sit off him. Just a dead game horse, really, really getting good. Legend of Time, in my opinion, is not one of the better Godolphin horses. And Diego Velasquez, in my opinion, is not one of the better Aiden O'Brien horses. Now, we've seen both of those bonds come here with 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stringers and win. But I'm going to bet against them both in that race. And I'm only going to start the pick 5 with the 7 and 8 Royal Majesty and White Palomino. And if they don't win, I'm out. Big race, Jim.
Yeah. I mean, I thought this race was pretty wide open. Watching back the Pennine Ridge and the Belmont Derby, it just seemed like Royal Majesty could have won either of those races if things kind of shook out a little bit differently for him. A little disappointing that White Palomino got nipped at the wire both times. I liked him back in that Pennine Ridge, but those were the 2 that I was most interested in here. I think Diego Velasquez, he's shipping all the way over here off of running 2 weeks ago, which is a little bit of a concern. And I think I tweeted it out the other day. So I'm gonna.
Yeah, Aiden had a bad stat or something.
Yeah. So just looking to bet against the horse is probably going to take a lot of money. I think there's a couple of obvious sort of knocks against him. And Legend of Time's just been disappointing in my view, and I'm gonna go away from him and look at those two horses on the outside. White Palomino is probably my strongest lean in here, and worth mentioning too. Saratoga Saturday, the initial episode, I think we spoke to Shug, and he was pretty high on Cugino, so worth a little bit of a closer look at him, though he figures to be a pretty short price in here.
Save the Clock Tower. I agree. Two of the best in the world, but I am fading them. That's what you do sometimes. So that's that.
That one note I wanted to mention. You viewers, remember I gave you my precise order. The 8 was my third choice, which I'm going to use as my main triple bet. White Palomino. I agree with John. He is steady, consistent, reliable, a kitten's joy. But I just think the 3 and the 4 have superior turf pedigree for this distance, and it's grade 1. And that's why I couldn't get past the 3 and the 4.
Okay. Race 8, the test. Surprise. I am going to reserve my pick in the test because tomorrow I am doing the test by the Thoroughgraph numbers and patterns. So that show will be out tomorrow. A lot of people watch those shows. They get a lot of views. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to hold my test pick for tomorrow when I do the Thoroughgraph numbers and patterns show. So I hope you watch it. Those shows are always fun, and the numbers never lie. We've caught a lot of winners on those shows. So you guys can go. Gio, who you taking in the test?
Okay, the test.
We want to finish by 9.
Yeah. I'll rock and roll. Listen, this is a race I've crushed many, many years. 3-year-old fillies, grade 1.
Who do you like was the question.
I'm going to get to that.
All right. I know you'll get to it, but that was the question.
I land on my main squeeze, but I got to give you my precise order. Reason for this, all right? This is a gal, all right? When I studied all the races, the one common denominator that's not there for this horse now is Torpedo Anna. This horse has won 4 straight races that Torpedo Anna wasn't in the race with the horse. Worthwhile at the distance. I trust Louise. I think this horse is grade 1 primed. Torpedo Anna was a big thorn in her side a couple of times. I land on my main squeeze to run him down with a good trip. My full precise order is 5-4-1-2-6. I got to mention one thing about Ways and Means with Flavian Pratt for Chad Brown. That tune-up was as easiest of you're going to find waltzing around the track. I think that filly will move forward. So I really like the exacta 5-4 and the 5-4-1 triple. But I'm keying the super 5 over the 4-1-2-6.
Here's what I want to ask you before we get to Big Race Jim. It's a yes or no question. Yes.
I'm good at those. Yes.
A or B. Are you singling my main squeeze in your pick 4 and pick 5?
No, I'm going too deep. I'm playing 5-4. My main squeeze.
It was a yes or no question. The answer was no.
No.
Okay. Big Race Jim, who you like in the test?
I'm going to get a little cute here and go to Brightwork, the 6. Return to a sprint. Her races last year at this distance were really good, and then for some reason they decided to put her in 2 route races where she got buried. So I'm going to see if we can catch lightning in a bottle and get a decent price on this one, returning to 7 furlongs. Horse for a course. I mean, if there is one, she's it. So Brightwork for me to upset the test.
Okay. No knock on either of you guys' opinion, but again, mine's gonna wait for the test by the thoroughgraph numbers and patterns. So we'll move to the 10th race, Detroit. I will start. Loved Cogburn last year, 7-1, thundered home, made a score. This year, not using Cogburn. I'm going too deep in this race. I'm using Mischief Magic, who is overdue and then some to get a good trip and get past these horses. And I think Saturday, I don't even know what day it is, but Saturday from the rail with William Buick coming in to ride both of the Appleby Godolphin horses. The other one's going to get more attention than this one. But I think this horse is sitting on a big race and has had some legitimate excuses and some legitimate bad trips. The other horse I'm using for the very same reason, but not as enthusiastically as Magic Mischief, is Big Invasion. Big Invasion gets a switch to Frankie. Frankie is a miracle worker. This horse has had some horrendous trips. I believe could have won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, if not boxed in on the rail with Joel Rosario. The thing that scares me a little bit about is that there were a couple of times where, okay, this time he didn't get in trouble and he still didn't seal the deal. So both of those times he moved a little early than the times that he got in trouble. So I'm hoping Frankie figures it out, does something a little different. And after seeing some of the races that he did get in trouble, I can't let him beat me at 15-1 and single Mischief Magic. If Big Invasion scratches, I'm all in singled on Mischief Magic. Big race, Jim. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I disagree on Big Invasion. It just feels like, his chance was that Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, and then
he could have won that race that day.
He was on my ticket that day too, so that was a little disappointing. I just haven't seen it from him recently enough against top competition to be a buyer. To your point too, John. A couple weeks ago, you said, and I don't know if you're speaking exactly about Cogburn, but just in general about horses that run super fast, whether they win or lose, it just takes a lot out of them. So I'm going to try and play against Cogburn here. I landed on the 8, Groom's All Business. I just think he's going to be in a good up close position, and he's going to be able to get the jump on some of these. And I'm kind of banking on Cogburn just being a little gassed from that record-setting effort last time in the Jaipur. And I think Groom's All Business is going to be running as good as anybody. He's one of the top horses in the current class on Brisnet, which I lean to heavily on turf races. So that's where I landed.
And just to add something, we gave Katie a shout out. How about giving Dylan a shout out? We did a great series. Jim actually did a great series day in, day out with Dylan Davis, where he went out with him in the mornings, was with him in the afternoons. If you haven't watched that series, they're not long. They're short videos, super insightful, and a great way to get to know Dylan, who has been riding great at Saratoga. Had a couple of winners today. He's just riding. He's riding great, man. Dylan, the Double D is riding really good, man. Gio, where do you land?
I am busting to give you folks my Troy. Listen up, and this is an alert, because when John Stetton and Mr. Setti have similar sentiments about a horse's chance to upset the field, you got to listen carefully.
We're about 90%.
Yeah, we're about 90%. I landed on Big Invasion for a big upset. First of all, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Cogburn's, and I'm doing this, folks, over 45 years. Cogburn's last race was the first time I ever saw a sub 1 minute, 5.5 furlongs in a turf. So Cogburn's effort at 59-4 was a track record at this distance.
I think it was a world record, was it not?
Yeah, ridiculous. So, Jim, it was great that you mentioned that. I just wanted to add, I've never seen it, and was the fact that it was a track record at 5.5 furlongs on the lawn. But here's why, and by the way, much respect for Cogburn. Extremely difficult to come off him. Asmussen's got him primed, 5 for 5 at the distance, 2 for 2 at Saratoga. Just racing phenomenally in top form, a killer on the lawn. However, I landed on Big Invasion for 3 reasons. I love the switch to Frankie Dettori and his experience. Christophe Clement has been uncharacteristically cold at Saratoga. I still think he's a wonderful conditioner for horses on the lawn. The horse has won 6 times at the distance, twice at Saratoga. Needs a trip. So I wrote dangerous. If he doesn't get blocked, I think he's got an assured pace. Cogron has beat him 2 times. In both those races, he had horrible trips. If Frankie gets a lane, this horse is going to come. I like Big Invasion at a big price. I'm not singling him. My full handicap is 7-6-8-1. You got to be crazy to leave Cogburn off your clip, but I do like the 8 as well. So I'm going 7-6 cold exacta, 7-6-8 cold triple. Grooms all business. 6 for 10 at the distance. A very disciplined, quality trainer in Jorge D. Dylan Davis could get it done. I love the possibilities of a 6-7-8, 7-6-8 triple. And last week, as John mentioned him, the 1, Mischief Magic with William Buick for Godolphin Blue. That's your superfecta, folks. 7-6-8-1. Bam!
Okay, there we have it. We'll just close with this so everybody's clear. I know we skipped the 9th race. We didn't do the 9th race. We did the graded stakes, but the test I'm going to do tomorrow by the Thoroughgraph numbers. But just so you see, I'm using the 7 and 8 in the first leg. I'm using the 1 and 7 in that turf sprint. I'm only going to use 1 horse in the test, I'm pretty sure. So the way my ticket is structured allows me to go that 4-5 deep in the Whitney. So that's just, that race just wound up to be, in my opinion, the race where I'm spreading, but I'm narrow with nice prices in the races that lead up to that. So in my opinion, it's a well-structured ticket. So everybody, thank you for watching. Hopefully some of you will tune in tomorrow. The Thoroughgraph show is not going to be live, so you can watch it at your convenience if you so choose. And I guess that's a wrap, gentlemen. Till next week. What is next week's race? The Alabama? No. Is it the Alabama? No, it can't be.
No, what is the 4-Star Dave, I think?
4-Star Dave, right.
Yeah,
4-Star Dave.
The Alabama,
then the Alabama, then the track.
By the way, you see the banner. Our friends at AM Wager, if you don't have an account and you need to open up one, that's where you got to go. And, like, subscribe, share this. Anybody that's in the horses, how can they not want or appreciate our show? So share along. Subscribe.
I agree with everything he said. How could you not like our show? You ride with us, you'll never starve.
We win. We win
thank
together.
You, baby. Appreciate you, man.
Look, I know there's some people out there going to play my exactas because I'm going to win.
There are some people that are out there that are going to play against every horse I said, and they might be right. It happens. Horses humble everybody.
Yeah, but, and we're all entitled to our opinion. Use information as pearls for you to make an informed decision at the window.
Here's one pet peeve I have, and we could close with this, okay? I was watching TV while I was on the treadmill, okay? And I had the racing shows on. I was clicking from one to the other, FanDuel to the Naira channel to this. And these people are up there saying, I'm taking this horse, and I picked this horse, and I like that horse, and I'm taking this horse all day long. And not one of them make a fucking bet.
Yeah, right.
And that irks me, okay? At least with us 3, okay, we're betting. And we're betting what we're telling you that we like. We're not like somebody else out there, who I'm not even going to mention their name, who gives out one horse on TV and then quietly goes and bets another. Yes, all of that shit happens. If there's a flaw or chink in your armor or personality, this game will find it, exploit it, and bring it out one way or another. And all of that shit happens. But to me, people that don't bet shouldn't be saying, I pick, or I'm taking. What do you mean you're taking? You're not taking anything. You're taking nothing. You're not betting. And so many of them do that.
Many of those people, they do it for 5 minutes.
You know,
I have an obsession. I'm doing 17, 18 hours sometimes on a card.
Right. It's just ridiculous.
Did you say 7 or 8 or 17 or 18?
17 or 18. I go all in. I don't need sleep. I drink coffee at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Sleep's a little overrated, but you do need it, especially as you get a little bit older. Now the end of the show, my allergies went away. It's amazing. They're like some kind of like pollen attack in Florida lately. So, and apparently, the older you get, the worse your allergies get. And you ready for this? Those of you that know me are gonna live. I finally had to go to the allergist. I'm allergic to dogs.
Oh boy, that's not good.
He's like, you got to get all the dogs out of the house. I said, you say that again, I'll fucking kill you. No. All right, what are you out of your mind? You got to give me a shot or do something to fix this, or else I'll go find another doctor. Dogs ain't going nowhere. Right, Mackie Man? Mac the Knife. Come here. Say hello to everybody. Come here. Here's my co-pilot, Mac. Where is he? Come here, Mac. Mac, come on up.